Today on High Value Hustling Podcast, we are sitting down with someone who radiates purpose, peace, and passion. Arianna is a Christ follower with a heart on fire for helping others, especially when it comes to understanding themselves and, more importantly, understanding God. She's passionate about counseling and education and has a dream of either becoming a missionary or one day opening her home to teach young women about Jesus and life skills. She's also a talented photographer and is preparing to leave for a missions trip to Africa very soon. I'm excited to get to know her better right alongside all of you. Ariana, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Very excited to have you on. Are you able to give us just a quick intro of who you are? I know we just gave you a little bit of one, but I would love to hear more from your perspective. Who are you?
Yeah. So, of course, I am a firm believer of Jesus Christ, and I am a Word of Life Bible Institute alumni, class of 2023.
Wow.
I'm a college student at Owens Community College studying psychology and counseling.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. I first got in touch with Ariana through her brother, went to crew with him for a little while. Always, there's people that you grew up with and you vaguely know them, but not really directly. So just a few weeks ago, I saw a Facebook post. Ariana was like, "Hey, we're going to Africa." Well, you are, and she's feeling called to the missions field, and that's just very exciting. And I just love to see people that are not old that are on fire for Jesus because that's rare, especially in like your hometown. Because I think everyone has social media and they're like, oh, that person in that state far away is my age and on fire for Jesus. So I think that's really cool. What is something that you are loving right now? A book, a Bible verse, a hobby? What is
There
it?
are many things that I'm loving right now. The first thing I would have to say is a book called Lord Change Me by James MacDonald. And it just talks about how change doesn't come from ourselves, but it comes from the power of the Lord.
Mm.
And in order to accept that change, we need to be willing. We can't be holding on to things.
Mm.
That's definitely something that I have been loving and reading. Let's see. First Peter. I've been going through that in the Bible and I'm absolutely loving it. Learning new things about the Lord, about surrender, and the importance of deciding to love life every single day
Mm.
because our God is in control. And then my last thing is
Yep.
I've been listening to this worship song called Jealous Love by Seven Hill Worship, and it's so good. And it just reminds me that God has a jealous heart for us and wants all of us.
And then you mentioned like God being a jealous God too, all throughout the Old Testament. He's jealous for us, and we don't even realize that. We forget it so often. You mentioned that book about change.
Yes.
What inspired you to start reading a book about change?
Great question. In this relationship, and I was also going through a lot of like life circumstances. And when I came home, I was just like sitting and reflecting, and I was all like, this is not who I want to be. Like, yes, there was good aspects, but there was also a lot of characteristics that I was like, this is not godly or glorifying to the Lord. And I got this book like way back my sophomore year of high school, and I never picked it up. And I was all like, what better time than to do it now and allow the Lord to change me?
That's good.
Mhm.
That's good. There's this book that is not by a Christian author. It's this book called Wanting. I don't know the author, but it just describes like very simply, like all the book in a nutshell of how most of us want certain things because we want to mimic how other people are doing. He names it like mimetic desire. It's like that's so interesting, but it's so true because we grow up always seeing our parents wanting to mimic them, and then
Right.
grow into adulthood wanting to mimic people that are always in a better spot than us. And then and then you forget, like, is this really my decision or is it everyone's impact on me that I'm doing everything that I'm doing? My favorite question that I love to ask people, may you please share your testimony with us?
Yeah, I would
All
love
right.
to. All right. So I would say I grew up in a Christian household and like I grew up going to church. Moment in relationship with people and the sports that I did, kind of like an identity crisis,
Mm.
I would say. And it led me to be super angry and just so confused and lost. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until my sophomore year of high school I was quote unquote forced to go to a snow camp. I wasn't really forced, but it was free and I felt obligated to go.
Because I know your brother, you've watched him and his relationship with the Lord. How has he influenced your relationship with Jesus?
Yeah. So he has invited me to crew multiple times. No way, not going. I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Um, but he was just like, "No, come on, come on." And I think he encouraged me in that way because it allowed me to find fellowship with other believers.
Yeah,
And if it wasn't for him, I don't think like I would be able to, not that I wouldn't be able to, I don't think I would have faced so easily if I didn't know about crew.
yeah. Wow. I was talking to someone about this last night. How when the Pharisees came up to Jesus while he was preaching at the temple,
Mm.
they said, "Teacher, what is the one law or commandment or the most important commandment of all?" Do you remember what he said?
Jesus? What did he
Yeah. How what did he respond? Do you remember?
say? Love the Lord your God above
Yeah.
all else, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
love your neighbor as yourself.
Nice job. Give me some. You got it. That's exactly right. But I was talking to this person last night, and I said, Jesus really answered that question, what is the most important
Mm.
commandment of all time, incorrectly because he answered with 2 things, not 1.
Right.
And I know that I'm getting somewhere with this. I heard a pastor preach on this. He said, "Why would Jesus include that if it wasn't vital to your Christian walk?" Because I know for me personally, when I've grown up in the church, I'm like, okay, the church is cool, but it's an individual relationship with Jesus. Why would like is the church required for a relationship with Jesus? I don't think so. But my perspective has really changed on that when I've realized how much people are there for you when you're going through seasons of grief, of loss, of suffering, pain, whatever it is. You can't pull yourself out of that, which you shouldn't. You should always go to Jesus for. But just having people just there for you to support you is so important. Um,
I mean,
yeah,
we were created by God for fellowship. It
come
goes all
on.
the way back in Genesis,
Yeah,
like when God made Adam, he was all like, "It's not good for man to be alone," and he brought Eve along. So that's just like,
amen.
yeah, picture of starting a fellowship.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you for sharing your testimony.
Mhm.
I do want have a couple more questions on that, right? So your brother is how many years older than you?
3.
Okay, 3 years older. Wonderful. And you've seen his walk with Jesus and then going to this Christian college for a year
Mhm.
and coming back and wanting to just be all about Jesus now. What has this done for your friendships that are around you? Has there been any changes? Cool. Awesome. What are some key moments in your walk with Jesus that really shaped who you are today? It could be any moment, any time, even before you believed in Jesus that he did something, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, so I have 2, I believe. And the first one was back in September of 23. I lost my nana.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was a very tough and challenging time. And I was right in the middle of like working a full-time mission.
Mm,
And like the director was all like, "You gotta come back. Like, when are you coming? Blah, 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 blah." And so I had to leave earlier than I wanted to.
mm,
So that was really challenging. And there was just a lot of like, I could not sleep for, days or
yeah.
whatever. But then one night in the middle of like my brokenness, I saw in my Bible reading Psalms, I think it was, what is it? 73:26. And it says, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." And that gave me such encouragement because
Wow.
it's just like, it's not all of my own strength.
Wow.
I have to overcome this, Like, although the pain didn't like vanish, like there was purpose in the pain that, God brought
Wow.
me in. Yeah. So he just showed everything to me in like a new lens.
Mm,
He showed me how the second thing, yes, adults influence children, but how often do we think about that kids actually can influence us in our faith and our
come
walk?
on. Come
So
on.
just that whole time there, that whole situation just beautifully displayed what childlike faith looked like to me.
Wow. That's such a beautiful answer. Yeah, Jesus yeah, wow. I know that Jesus tells us, like, just like you said, like, childlike faith is what God encourages us to have all the time, and, yeah, I don't even know what to say to that. It's awesome. It's so cool. That's cool. When was the time of the second of with the girl giving you that?
Yes, so that was probably, I think, in the spring of
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Cool. When did you first feel called to missions or ministry?
Yes, so I actually never thought I would go into missions or ministry. As long as I could remember, I've always wanted to do something like meaningful and impactful, but I just didn't know what that would look like. I think it was probably when I went to summer camp up in New York. and I saw how much my counselors invested into my life, and they were just so intentional with everything that I said and everything that I poured out to them.
Do you think some people can be called, but they don't know for sure, and they never know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, I think I'll phrase it differently.
Yeah.
So I think there's good things that we can do for God that glorifies God, but God's not in it. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense.
An example of this would be, let's just say a church has a worship team, and you could hire a much better team, but maybe their relationships with God is not as reflected. Is this good? A good thing for it to have better like singers and this stuff? Yes, but is God like if the current worship team is already spirit filled and God doesn't care how good or bad your voice is, he just wants it to be. Maybe that's a bad example. But I do want to say like I think there's times in our life like so often where we're questioning what's the next thing? What do we do? And then we ask God and we hear nothing back. And I think that's what's supposed to happen more than often so that we can increase our faith and say, okay, I don't hear an answer, God, but I still trust you because your character is pure and it's good. Therefore, I'm going to take this step in faith, not
Yeah.
knowing that this is good. A mentor of mine, and who's still a mentor of mine, would always tell me, he said, very few times will you know for sure exactly that it's from God. He's like recounting from his own life. He says, the best way I can describe it as praying and seeing that God opens doors and closes others. And
Mhm.
he's like, sometimes you just know the doors are opening up in such a coincidental way that it's no longer coincidental, and
Mhm.
that's Jesus. And other times, he's like, there's some resistance, but then there's a breakthrough in God. But then other times, it's just like slam door that you cannot get through. And you're like, God, I thought this is what you wanted. But he's like, no, there's a better way. I have a better plan for you.
Mhm.
All that to say, even if you're like, I know that summer camp experience had a big impact on you, but even if you're not for sure, it's okay.
Yeah, for sure. I also think just during those times, what your heart posture looks like has a big
Yeah.
effect and play into that. And also, like going back, having that piece of this isn't working out, or oh, this is like
Yeah.
it kind of helps like give you that leeway of where God is directing you in that.
Mm. That's good. That's good. You are passionate about counseling and education. Where did that passion start?
Okay, so again, funny thing, I never wanted to go into counseling or education. I always thought I would like do something like higher up, if that makes sense. But God kept pulling my heart back to people,
Mm,
especially kids.
yeah.
My passion for counseling started at Word of Life. We had our Deans of Women there, and she's all like, I want to invite all of like the girls or whatever in like my suite to just come over and we're just gonna hang out and she ended up having like cookies and all this sweet stuff there, and it was just such a intentional time of fellowship and reading into the word that I think I've only experienced that once
Mm,
while being there. And also like there's so much beauty in this and like glorifying the Lord in this. I want to be able to take this what I've experienced and learned and be able to share that with other girls. So I think that's where counseling comes in a little bit. Also, I have a heart for hearing people and like what they're going through, and I want to be able to point them back to the Lord
yeah.
in that, I mean, obviously, like help their problem if it's possible, but I mean, only the Lord can really see you through on that. When it comes to education, when I was in Indiana, I worked in the schools and I worked as a after school club counselor and I had to teach lessons and I was like, no way, talking in front of people, not my gig.
Right.
But during that time I figured out I loved lesson planning. I loved getting the kids involved and whatnot. And I thought like, "Ah, I could teach. Like I could definitely see myself like teaching at Sunday school or, all the above because yeah, I don't know. I just love it. It just brings so much joy and fulfillment. And when you see the kids like reciprocate what they're learning and showing everyone is such like a sweet feeling of how the Lord is working.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's awesome. You just mentioned, you said, which I don't think I've heard from many people at all, of how you have a heart for listening to people.
Mhm.
That like as I was just hearing you say that, it just reminded me, who else wants to be heard more than kids,
Yeah.
right?
So true.
Because as a kid, you feel like overlooked a lot, right?
Mhm.
I mean, depends on the age too, but if you're I don't know, maybe 15 or younger. You don't have much experience, you can't drive yet.
Yeah.
You're in school all the time. So it's like, oh, I don't have much to say, or people don't respect what I say. And so to have someone that's older than them be interested or willing to listen and just be like, wow, thanks for telling me that. They don't get that. They don't. Their parents, maybe like,
Mhm.
but a lot of families don't have that either.
Yeah, that really showed through during my time in Indiana because a lot of these kids came from like poverty, single parent homes.
Cool. Take a breather. Yeah. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah?
I think. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're, like, forcing anything, or you feel like you're okay? Okay.
Yeah, actually, so because like I typed all of it out,
Yeah.
and like I know I'm not gonna go based off of the script.
Good.
So just looking at like little key points, it feels so much more natural to me
Yeah,
than
yeah, yeah.
being like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I need to adjust my mic anyways. I'm like, I feel like I'm bending over on it. I'm like, "Not gonna work." Oh, force my kids to sit up because I feel like I slouch all the time.
Like slouching, but it has to be like excessive like
Oh, yeah, sure,
distance, like,
sure.
but I'm also afraid I'm gonna end up like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like
Oh, yeah.
when I'm old.
It's like one of the that's the only play I've seen in person, The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I've never seen it. Like I've seen the
Oh,
Disney rendition.
I wouldn't recommend.
Oh, okay. Noted. Noted.
Alright.
Yeah.
Good. I think you're doing very well.
Okay.
Um, so by the way, also, this is still part of the break and stuff, but long, like, looking long way out.
Hmm.
We'll have a camera here and a camera here so that it's not like a side face profile. I think it's fine, but that's how you get started, right? But yeah, just letting you know.
Okay.
In the future, when you come back after your trip
When I
next
come
year,
back. Oh,
well, I hope you do,
part two. I'd come back.
unless you die.
I have nothing else to say, but I will be done.
Die. Well, okay.
Yes.
Yes, you're passionate about cat. Okay. Yeah. I love this question too. Okay. So, love this question. You are passionate about wanting to teach girls about Jesus and life skills. Can you paint us a picture of what that dream looks like to you in your mind?
Yes, I can. Okay. So the absolute dream would be to be involved in a youth group
Okay.
and disciple girls within the youth group, but at the same time schedule one day outside the week for them to be able to come into my home and just kind of chillax and be themselves and to dig into the word and obviously to enjoy some sweet treats because who doesn't love that? And yeah, they would just be able to have a time of fellowship together.
Yeah.
And the ultimate goal would be to have a space where they can build real fellowship, grow in their faith, but then also take what they've learned and applied and do it for someone else and disciple someone else down their road. So that's the dream, that's the hope.
Wow.
Yeah.
And primarily in your own house, inviting people in,
Mhm.
right? What kind of snacks or things will you have out?
Yes, so we will definitely have tea. We can have coffee for those, who like coffee. Definitely like cookies. Hopefully they'll all be like handmade or yeah, handmade. Um, yeah, anything that the girls want. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Cool to have like that dream. You already kind of know. Um, yeah. As far as like you've seen this, so briefly going back to I'm gonna take that out. I don't even know where I was going with that. Blah. How do you use photography for like as your creative outlet? Do you use it for a ministry at all? If you don't, like what how else do you use that
Yeah. So truth be told, I don't see photography as a creative outlet at all.
for yourself?
For myself,
Okay.
yes. It's really hard for me to see it that way. I see it more as a ministry.
Mm,
And I think that could just because that's how I first saw it when I got into it. The reason why I see it as a ministry is because you have the camera and you're able to capture life changing moments for other people that they will be able to hold on to and reflect on
mm.
and be able to share with their family or future children or families, etc. of life during our like snow camp season. We had this thing called a buy statement and
Okay.
it was basically like every camper's next step with Jesus is by blah, blah, blah. And so for our marketing team, I love it. We said every camper's next step with Jesus by sharing the joy of life impacted, um, yeah, by Christ and just how Christ is working in their life.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's awesome. If there's someone right now that has photography and they love it,
Mhm.
but they don't see it as a form of ministry, what advice would you give to them for like incorporating God in it or otherwise?
I think my advice would be to just remember that everything that you are doing is for the glory of God.
Amen.
Just because you have a camera in your hand and and you're using it for creativity, you can still share the gospel and use that as a light. There was this time I was photographing a wedding up in New York and they were like, "Oh, are you from here?" I'm like, "No, I'm from Ohio." And they're like, "Well, how did you like get up here?" And I was able to share about Word of Life Bible Institute and
Mhm.
just how Christ has been working in my life in music photography. So
That's awesome. Wow. Shifting gears here, you will be going to Africa here shortly. How did that come together?
yeah. So great question. I was going to, or I went actually to winter conference this past winter, and I kind of like knew the Lord was putting on my heart to do something with missions, but I
Yeah.
felt like maybe I should just stay home and work and
Hmm.
kind of serve in my church that way. But by the end of, winter conference, I was like, okay, like mission somewhere, or mission trips and what they will be doing and whatnot. And it just all kind of clicked right there. Like I was so sure it was like international. I'm
Wow.
like, okay, Lord, like
Yeah.
you got it. Like, that's where I'll go. But then I was like, where? So I found this organization called Student Fusion, and there were multiple different trips, and I was between Honduras and South Africa. And I thought Honduras was the trip because I was like, I'm learning Spanish and it's specifically VBS and kids ministry. I'm like, yeah. But then I saw South Africa and there was just like a heart pull,
Mm.
heart tug on that. I was like, Lord, I don't know, because we got like door to door evangelism,
Yeah.
not really my thing. But I knew
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. You're all good. You go to bed by 8?
No, that's like it reminds me. To get ready.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, dang.
And that was such a good
From the top.
well, yeah. I'll ask the question again. But that was like so good. I love that.
Oh,
Like we can jump right back into it too. Man, that was good. You can just no, you can just start back off. I got you. I'll bring you back in.
okay.
Okay. You're just telling us about Honduras and South Africa and how South Africa there you had a heart tug, and that even though evangelism door to door might not be your thing, how there's still something more to why you think you should go.
Yeah. So, I didn't wanna go on a trip that I felt comfortable in. I
Whoa.
wanted
Okay.
yeah, I know.
That's massive.
Scary, yeah. But I was like, I really wanna go on a trip that's gonna be, like, faith changing, life changing, and
Wow.
really putting me out of my comfort zone. And so I submitted an application for both trips, deleted both of them. Silly, but I did. And basically the next day, they were like, "Congratulations, we got your application." And I'm like, which one? So, and then like a few days later, they were like, "You're going to South Africa." I said, "Okay, Lord." Like, I don't know
Wow.
how I'm gonna fundraise like 3,000 some dollars, but you will do it, and
Yeah.
it will be just really just a time of me putting my trust in you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how South Africa like all came about.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so God in there of you not knowing for sure and him showing up and saying, "Yep, South Africa, and yes, this is it." Wow. I just wanna highlight that. I never hear this, never. I talk to a lot of people where I go to school at University of Toledo about, like, living bold for faith, being uncomfortable. Everyone's like, "Yeah, don't wanna be uncomfortable." Everyone's like that.
Mhm.
Now, I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense, you wanna have a comfortable life, but as a Christ follower, when, uh, we're not called to be comfortable,
So
we're called to suffer for Jesus, and oftentimes that means being uncomfortable, going places that test our faith. Wow.
yeah, First Peter actually talks about that in like chapters 1 and 2. So just kind of seeing the trip and then reading about that, I'm like, okay, or like it's just all kind of coming
Yeah.
together.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
What are you most excited about, for the trip?
Ooh, I think I obviously meeting new people might
Mm,
not be my forte, but I'm so excited. Helping out with the VBS and visiting an orphanage. I've never been to one, and I'm just super excited to just be able to just love on the people there, churches and youth groups. So that'll be super exciting. And just being able to be with the community of the people of South Africa and learning about who they are and their culture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. For those of us listening here, what how can we be praying for you?
I think to pray for our hearts to be prepared
Mm.
for the people on the team.
You said you love having people understand themselves and God. What do you think people often miss about either one of those?
Okay. So, when it comes to understanding themselves, I think they miss how valuable and vital their identity in Christ is.
Come on, tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So, like, it's hard to explain it, but we always see like the flaws in ourselves and like, man, the corruptness that we can bring as people. But although God, like, He does see that, but He sees the real and the internalness of our hearts.
Yeah.
And